We've all been there. You're walking down the street, and suddenly you're hit by this incredible smell of something delicious grilling on a corner. It just pulls you right in. But what's really going on behind that cart? Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of street food entrepreneurs and uncover the real grit behind all that glamour.
So, you know the scene. There's a vibrant food cart, steam is rising, the vendor is chatting with happy customers. It kind of looks like they're living the dream, right? Being your own boss, total creative freedom. It's a really romantic image for sure. But that's really only half the story.
So in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers. We'll start with that idea of the dream versus the reality of the grit. Then we'll get into the big hidden challenges these entrepreneurs are up against every day. The anonymity trap, the constant battle with weather, rising costs, the burnout from just doing admin, and finally, the tough fight for customer loyalty.
That dream of independence? Well, for a whole lot of vendors, especially in developing economies, this isn't just some cool passion project. No, this is their lifeline. This is the business that supports their entire family. And they are battling these unseen forces every single day just to keep the lights on.
Okay, so our first major hurdle is something called the anonymity trap. Since so many of these businesses are informal, not officially registered, they can kind of fly under the radar. And this creates a situation where, look, there's a really strong temptation to cut corners on safety and quality to make a quicker profit, because there's not much fear of getting caught. I mean, listen to this quote from a street vendor in Ghana. It's just brutally honest. It lays out a pretty stark reality. This isn't about people not knowing any better. It's a calculated choice, and it's driven purely by economics and a total lack of oversight. And that, of course, just creates this vicious cycle of distrust.
So how do you even begin to fix something like that? Well, the solutions are really all about building trust. If you revamp the registration process, you suddenly create accountability. Fostering collaboration between the regulators and the vendors themselves, instead of this us versus them attitude, makes a huge difference. And providing practical training on safe, affordable alternatives helps shift the whole system from seeing vendors as a nuisance to seeing them as what they are, valuable pillars of the community. All right, let's move on to the next challenge, because it all starts to build on itself. For an entrepreneur whose office is literally the sidewalk, the weather isn't just an inconvenience. It can be an absolute tyrant that can make or break their whole business.
Just think about it for a second. A sudden downpour or a crazy heat wave doesn't just keep customers away. It can ruin an entire day's worth of food that's already been prepped. In a market that's already packed with competition, a single stormy week can mean throwing out hundreds of dollars in food. That can wipe out your profit and put this immense financial and emotional strain on a family who really depends on that income.
But this is where their resilience just absolutely shines. They're fighting back with some incredible adaptability. They're forming partnerships to do pop-ups inside local shops on rainy days. Or they're diversifying their whole model to get on delivery apps so they can reach customers no matter what the sky's doing.
Okay, next up is a pressure cooker that honestly never turns off. The constant, grinding increase in the cost of, well, everything. We're talking ingredients, cooking oil, licensing fees, taxes. That financial squeeze on already paper-thin profit margins is just relentless.
And just take a look at this number. Small food businesses can be facing cost hikes of 20 to 30%. And that's not a one-time thing. That's every single year. These jumps are usually driven by things like inflation and new taxes, and it creates this enormous burden that forces vendors to constantly rethink their entire game plan. But here's the really surprising twist in all this. That intense pressure, it often sparks some incredible innovation. When a key ingredient suddenly becomes way too expensive, a vendor is forced to get creative and experiment. And what feels like a huge setback can actually lead to the creation of a brand new dish that becomes an absolute crowd favorite, an unexpected bestseller that was born purely out of necessity.
Behind every single delicious meal is a mountain of work we never see. I'm talking about managing inventory, scheduling, sourcing ingredients, and constantly having to reply to customer messages. This administrative grind is like a silent time thief, and it leads straight to burnout.
A lot of vendors try to use social media, but honestly, it's pretty inefficient. You're mostly just preaching to the choir, right? You're reaching people who already follow you. Centralized apps, though, they are a total game changer. They can instantly notify all potential customers in an area about a location change or a daily special. That frees up the vendor's precious time to focus on what really matters, making great food and connecting with people. All right, finally, let's talk about competition. In a bustling city center, you might have dozens of food carts, all trying to grab people's attention.
In a crowded arena like that, how on earth do you build a loyal following and turn a one-time customer into a regular?
Now here's a really surprising insight. You'd think that low loyalty is all about the food not being good enough, but often that's not it at all. In really high traffic areas, the customer base is just constantly changing because people are just passing through. So the big takeaway here is that building a memorable brand and a personal connection becomes just as important as the food itself.
So the solution isn't just about making better food, it's about being a smarter business owner. This means developing a menu that really stands out, actively asking for customer feedback to build those relationships, and even collaborating with other local businesses on marketing to get your name out there.
So when you pull it all together, the financial pressures, the unpredictable weather, the endless administrative grind, what you're really seeing is this incredible story of human tenacity. These entrepreneurs aren't just selling food. They are innovators, they are problem solvers, and they are fighters, adapting every single day just to survive, and hopefully to thrive.
And that leaves us with a final, pretty powerful question to think about. We see their resilience and their creativity against all these odds, so just imagine what they could achieve with better support systems in place. Could these individual street-side hustles actually be the key to transforming entire urban economies? Definitely something to consider the next time you grab a bite.